What's up, everybody? This is Rob Shack. So today we're doing another video in my Gran Turismo 3 Rivals series. This is kind of an interesting take on what I did from before, but I'm going to kind of add to it, and you'll see what I'm saying in a second. But be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'm going to get to 1,000 subs, hoping to get there by the end of the year. So two cars that I don't know why I didn't compare before was the Panoz Esperante GT1 and the Ford GT40. I don't know why I never... the race car, by the way. The Ford GT40 race car. I don't know why I didn't really compare them. Maybe because their speeds or their horsepowers are super different. But they sound exactly the same. So I think I'm just going to do another... I know I've done the comparison with the Esperante and another car. I can't remember what it was now. I think it was the Alteza. But I'm going to do a comparison now with the Ford GT40 and the Esperante again, because I hadn't thought about how similar these cars sound, and they really do sound like exact. It's almost like they just took the same pitch. They took the pitch from the Ford, because the Ford GT, like the road car version of it, and the Ford GT40 race car sound almost exactly the same, but the pitch is up slightly, and it feels like they just did the exact same thing with the Ford GT40 and the Esperante. They were like, you know what we need to do is, wait, why is there another... There's a ghost dot on this map. I don't even know who that is. Anyway, so they did the same thing with the Ford GT40 race car and the Panoz Esperante. They were like, because eventually they changed the Esperante's his audio to be something totally different, and it sounds much worse in my opinion. But in GT3 they kept they have the like Ford GT40 sound on the Esperante, but just pitched up even more, which I like. And I think a lot of people will agree with that they really butchered the Esperante in these Gran Turismo games. They make the car look really heavy. I think it does have a lot of... It's a very powerful car, so I think that's why they're thinking that. But it's still a race car. It's still supposed to be sort of lightweight. And then they had the sound shifted to something much quieter than what I think it should be in real life. Again, please comment on that if I'm wrong. But it seems like the Esperante sound, when I watched videos of it live, because I've seen them on YouTube, you can go and look up the Panoz Esperante in the 90s driving around courses, and it sounds a lot like it does in GT3, and it feels like something was off with polyphony, or maybe with the Panoz people. They were like, yeah, you can't make it look that accurate. Maybe it's too close. But they changed the sound in the later games, and it sounds terrible. It's so quiet. It does not sound like its version in real life. And I don't know if that was like, again, I don't know if that's copyright or not, but who knows. So the Ford GT40 sounds very accurate. They've kept that very consistent with what it looks like in real life. They've definitely respected the Ford GT and the Ford GT40. I think technically it's the road car is called the Ford GT Mark 1, I think. And I don't think it's actually called Ford GT40. Maybe I'm wrong there as well, but someone can comment on that as well. I know that the race car is called the Ford GT40 race car, but I don't know if they actually like kept that consistent with the Mark 1 road version of the thing. I know that it's called the Ford GT Mark 1, but I think it's called the Ford GT40 Mark 1. I'm just going to stick with that. I don't actually know. But again, I love when people comment, so comment and tell me what I am wrong about with that. But I do know for sure, because I've watched the video on the Panoz Esperante in real life, and it sounds completely different, and it sounds very similar to what it sounds like in GT3, and then from 4 on, they like screwed up the sound, and it sounds awful, and it's really heavy, and it shouldn't be that heavy. Again, I don't know what they were doing. Anyway, so what I'm doing here, I haven't even really, I've obviously gotten into it, but what I do with this video, this series, is I'm doing a GT Rivals series. Gran Turismo 3 had very few cars, so what they did to kind of make up for that was basically have cars introduced into the game that were rivals of other cars in the game. And I thought that was a really good idea because it allows for a lot of replayability with not a lot of cars and not a lot of options either. So you have similarities between cars in the game, and it becomes really apparent that they were just trying to keep the game more. They went for quality over quantity and for replayability over like accuracy. So they have a lot of cars in the game that are fictional, that just kind of are set to fit a, you know, comparison between other cars in the game. That's basically what they were trying to do, and it was interesting that they did that, but I actually really liked it, and that's the thing that they obviously didn't have to do it as much in GT4, so you notice that, as I've said before, in GT4 there's not a lot of replayability like there is in 3, because you just have so many consistent factors, and the AI is so good in GT3 that you always are going to have something interesting happen. But so what I've noticed is in this game, the GT40 and the Esperante are very similar in terms of sound design, and they just kind of have that American muscle vibe to both of them. Even though the Panoz is new, it kind of has that modern day muscle car vibe, which I like in GT3. It's very, very well done. But I haven't really talked about the GT40. GT40 is an incredible car. I'll talk about the GT40 more when I'm driving with the Esperante, because a lot of the things you see about the GT40 that are really good are very obvious because the Esperante doesn't really have those things, even though the Esperante is the modern version of the GT40 in my opinion. Obviously, there's actually a modern GT40, but like in this game, they kind of like, in my head, they're very similarly classed. I kind of don't know why I compared the Altezza to the Ford GT40 or in an earlier video, but I did. Who knows? I don't know what I was thinking. It was new in the series. I was figuring it out. But yeah, the Esperante and the GT40 to me have a lot of similarities here, and I'll start talking about that as I transition here from watching the GT40 to the Esperante. The GT40 and Esperante, again, as I've said before, they sound very similar, and that's really cool. I like that they sound similarly because they are really great cars. GT40 has crazy good handling. Did not mean to order them by price. I don't know what I was doing. But find this car real quick. Okay, there it is. The GT40 has crazy good handling, and also given its power, it only has 681 horsepower in the game, but it's super lightweight, and it really shows because as you noticed as I was driving that car, very even distribution of power, not a lot of turbo lag. I don't think a lot of these American cars have that like turbo lag vibe. They're more muscle based, so they're probably what is that, a naturally aspirated engine, probably not a turbo. But I feel like the Ford GT40 was such a revolutionary car for its time. Obviously, it was an incredible car. There's a movie about it, Ford versus Ferrari, which is all about the Ford GT40, Mark 1, 2, and 3, and whatever, however many there were, that all just destroyed Ferrari in the 60s. So the Ford GT40 kind of shows that. It's just such a very efficient use of its power. It's very incredible how it is able to generate that much power with that few horsepower. It's very light, and it has a very timeless look. I think the Ford GT40, like the front end of that car, literally looks still like a modern car. I don't know how they nailed the design of the front down so incredibly well that the front has the most timeless look of any race car I think I've ever seen. It's pretty shocking, if I'm going to be completely honest, how well a 1967 car's front looks. The back still looks good, but the back has shown its age, but again, who cares, because it has that racing thing where it's just tiny little red dots as the brake lights. I mean, a lot of even modern cars have that, so it's not like it's not timeless. It still looks fantastic, the back is, but the front has this ability to have aged really well. Like, I could see the front end of the Ford GT40 on a modern, like a 2020, and it would be like, yeah, but the back does look like it looks like a race car, which is, again, that's what it is. But like, it's amazing how they made that car. Even the back still has aged very well, because more modern cars still have that simple design. Like, you can look at the Audi R8 from the 2000s, and it has just a tiny red brake light. That's it. So like, the Ford GT40 has aged extremely well. I also think the Panoz has aged extremely well. It has a very timeless look. That isn't really related to performance, but I go through all this stuff. So the Panoz and the Ford GT40 both look phenomenal. I think the Ford GT40 has a modern aged look that's shocking. I think the Panoz has a timeless look as well. I think in terms of appearance, I really don't know. Again, these are things I'm going to ask people to comment on. If you get this far, thank you. I will give you a prompt to comment, because I love hearing people's comments. What car do you think looks better between the Ford GT40 and the Panoz Esperante? It's kind of hard for me to decide. I think I don't know. I think the front of the Ford GT40 looks better. I think the rear of the Panoz looks better. I think the simplicity of the Golf livery of the Ford GT40 accounts for something, but I think the like Vizian logo on the Panoz looks great, and the fact that I've seen both of them now on videos and YouTube shows, like, I mean, they both look fantastic. They both really, really do. It's pretty shocking how they both look incredible. Again, they both sound very similar. It's really hard to decide there. I think the handling of the Ford GT40 in these games is very accurate and very good. I think the handling of the Ford GT40 is way, way better than the Panoz. It's not even a contest, honestly. But I do think that the acceleration of obviously because the Panoz has way more power, but it is way heavier. The Ford GT40 has a more efficient use of its power, but I think in terms of just straight raw power, the Panoz absolutely destroys. I mean, it has 400 more horsepower, but it is way heavier, so you can do a lot of incredible testing of that if you want to, but I'm just going to do my classic here where I just do a complex string. It's a very dynamic course. I feel like the Ford GT40 is because it's so low to the ground, it's very rooted. The Esperante is a little bit more difficult to control. Obviously, you'll see when I do the AI battle that the AI cannot handle the Esperante at all. They also kind of can't handle the GT40 either. The GT40 is a harder car to control. It is a 60s car. It has a lot less of the modern technology. It has like none, actually. So the Esperante, to me, is the version of the car that's the more powerful, harder to control version of the car. The GT40 is the safer, better handling, more even distribution of power car. And I've noticed that is a thing, as I've said in most of these videos. There's usually in the rival series, one car is the balanced one car is the faster but has harder handling characteristics. So I think that's kind of my vibe here. I think if I had to go with driving on the corkscrew, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to drive this car on Laguna Seca. The Ford GT40 would be the better option, and it's going to be. The AI won't handle it well, and I think even I would handle it not as well. But I think what I'm going to notice here, and what people will notice, and it's not going to be a surprise, is that the Ford GT40 is the softer, newer version. Well, it's not new, but it's the more neutered version of the Esperante is just a very more aggressive design of the Ford GT40 in terms of power. It's just so fast. It's crazy fast. It has crazy handling characteristics. It slides. It's aggressive. It's a bully on the road. The Ford GT40, given that it's so old, it's just so classy. It's so good at holding the course. It's very stable, even on jumps, even on unstable surfaces where the car is getting unstable. It still manages to hold its own very, very well. But yeah, the Esperante you cannot beat for raw power. So I'll pick of course I'll do the GT All-Stars race on Laguna Seca. It seems like it'll favor the Ford GT40, but the Esperante is a very, very fast car, and you'll see how it can hold its own. So we'll go ahead and switch to that now. Alrighty, so here we go. This is the replay that I decided to pick with the Ford GT40 and the Panoz Esperante in it. We've got the GT1, 787B, and randomly the Jaguar is here as well. This is a hilarious race where it kind of proves all the things I was saying before in the part of the video where I was showing all the stuff from well, there's a train, but also I just made the 787B spin out, so that was pretty funny. Got to keep the race interesting for the slower cars because the GT40 and the Panoz are the slower two cars in this series, so I wanted to keep it a little bit more interesting for them. But you'll see that the Panoz just has the power and absolutely no handling, and it's hilarious. So like now we have the 787B way in the back here. We have the Panoz just struggling to keep up with everybody because his handling is so bad. His tire wear is also really bad. I forgot to mention that before as well. Ford GT40 just doesn't have tire wear, basically. He just kind of kills it in terms of never needing to pit. I don't think he actually does pit the entire race. So yeah, it's pretty funny. And I also have to be slow in front of this Panoz to make it so he doesn't spin out. Eventually, he will fall apart and totally lose this race, but I wanted to see how long I can keep the Panoz in front of the Ford GT40. And he actually does a pretty good job at the beginning of this race, even with me not near him anymore. He totally stays strong and holds his own with the Ford GT40 for a while. So the GT1 of course spins here. See, I don't think I got involved there, but he just didn't spin there, and then he doesn't spin for a few laps actually. So it'll actually be a pretty good battle between the two of them because obviously I'm gonna try to stick with the GT1 because he's probably the actual fastest car in the race. 787B is the overall better car because of his complete lack of tire wear. But you'll see that I end up leaving the Ford GT40 and the Panoz behind. They kind of have their own little battle, and then eventually the Panoz will just totally screw up and fall apart. The Panoz, I think, is way faster. Obviously, we've kind of talked about this in the thing, but you'll see it here. whenever you do a breaking point test, like where if you see how fast the Panoz is going undrafted at a point, I'm not going to use this one as an example, but undrafted, the Panoz just does a better job of having a better top speed. But this was one of those ones where I don't know what he was doing there. I think it's because he was battling. When the AI battle on the corkscrew, stupid things happen. So he just like did a weird turn there and then didn't spin out, but just like didn't really break either. But yeah, you'll see that if you do a test between the two, generally the Ford GT40 has a slower speed anytime they hit a breaking point. Like, it's pretty substantial there. You can see, I think the Panoz was at 115 and the Ford GT40 was at 108. So it's like very noticeable, but then that handling of the Panoz being so bad just totally throws off everything with the Panoz. You just can't keep the handling going. And it's just very interesting how bad his handling is. But he is really, really fast, so he sticks with the GT40 for a while, even with the bad handling. That shows how it's a close battle if the AI if the AI wouldn't spin out, but the AI does spin out a lot. So they actually are having a battle. Sometimes in these videos, it just turns into one of them is just following the other one because they're too even. But in this one, they're actually like legitimately driving next to each other and trying to pass each other. It's pretty nice. It's kind of rare, honestly. So yeah, the Panoz is way, way faster. So in the hands of a more seasoned player, you could do a lot faster laps with the Panoz compared to the Ford GT40. But it is super interesting to see them battle. Like, they actually are battling, and it's like a good battle for a while before the Panoz inevitably falls apart, which will happen, but I don't remember when it happens. But for now, it's great. It's great to watch them being close. They're actually making passes. You know, the Panoz, again, shows his lack of handling because he'll, every once in a while, clip dirt and go sliding around. But other than that, he was doing a good job. And then he hits this turn here, and then that's it. These two, that corner and the corkscrew, seem to really throw off a lot of the AI in this game. It's really strange because I don't know why. And now it will basically settle into a race where it's just going to be an AI fails match with the Panoz. Now that he's not battling anybody else, he totally can't handle it. We're having a good four-way battle here for first with the Toyota GT1, me as the Arta NSX, the Jaguar XJ220, and the 787B. We're all kind of battling it out for fourth, which is pretty cool. All four of them being within 3 seconds of each other is pretty great at this stage in the race. Usually it would not be like this. So that's kind of nice. Again, the GT1 brakes way too early. 787B braked way too late because he was battling the Jaguar, but I don't know how the 787B can hold it on certain corners like that. Like, how did he not just like fly off the road is totally beyond me there. I don't even know. But it's a good little battle. Again, the Esperante and the GT40 are not even close to each other anymore, and the Esperante has now settled into his weird corkscrew shenanigans where he just... I don't even know how to explain what he does there. He just holds... He doesn't even brake enough, first off. Brakes way too late, too. Then just kind of slides into the corner and then catches the inner lip of the corkscrew and then goes flying around on the other side of it. So I don't know what that is. And then this corner is funny too because he basically just hits the lip of the whatever that stuff is called that makes that noise. What is that stuff? I don't know what that thing is called. Y'all can comment on what that is. I can't remember. And then he hits that and then goes flying into the gravel, spins, and it's just hilarious. The four-person battle for first is still happening. I know that's not the point of this video, but I noticed that this was happening as I was recording this, and I was like, hey, this is kind of nice. So, that'll be a good little, we have a good little duel. 77B makes a crazy lunge here, goes flying through. I thought for sure he was going to lose it on that corner, and then he didn't. But then when the GT1 and I started battling on the corkscrew, he ends up just kind of spinning out on his own there. I don't even know how that happened, but that was a good little moment I wanted to make sure I saved in my head because I was like, the 77B did like a lunge that I very rarely see the AI do and somehow not fall apart. Usually if they make a lunge like that, they're totally going to screw it up as they get through it. But he didn't. He just held it and did a great job. It was a great lunge. It was dangerous, but it was clean. He didn't touch anybody. He just lunged through and then he was fine. Here's the 77B doing another one of his crazy versions of this corner where he just kind of slides back and forth and somehow doesn't spin out on all that and then just somehow doesn't spin, but definitely a slower corner than it would be if you just didn't do that. But I love that the AI do this. I love that the GT3 AI have these moments where they just like cannot figure out corners. It's just fantastic to me. It makes the game a lot more entertaining because then you can have fun trying to help the AI by sticking around them and battling with them during the corner so that they don't mess up, or, you know, let them spin and then have a good video happening in the background, I guess. So it works out either way. Jaguar now is holding second because actually, how did the 787B get back in the back here? I don't actually know how that happened. Anyway, I was focused on the other people. But yeah, the 77B did make a lunge and then passed me, so I guess somewhere along the line, maybe he messed up on a battling thing with me. I can't remember. But now 77B is playing really aggressive here, shoving the GT1 into the gravel there, almost causing a spin. Probably just, I mean, yeah, the AI in this game is so great because they kind of drive like people drive in arcade racers a little bit. Like, they take corners well, but they also, like, they will just run you off the road if they want to. And I find that to be really great. I really like when they do stuff like that. They are not very human when they continuously make the same mistake on the same corner. Like, you'd think that they would make a mistake on a corner maybe twice in a row, but not every single lap when they're by themselves. So that's pretty funny. But, yeah, so clearly with the Ford GT40, slower car of the two, but way better handling. So if you're playing as a player, I would recommend you try the GT40 at first, and then from there you can upgrade to the 77B. What the heck did the 77B just do there? What was that? So yeah, the 77B seems to be having some AI issues because I'm not even over here. I'm way in front of them. I'm 9 seconds ahead, so I don't even know what that was. It seemed like he just... Again, if they're battling on that corkscrew, you never know what's going to happen. There could be crazy AI fails that I never even have seen because they don't like battling on that corkscrew. I think it's geared towards trying to keep them from messing up, but it ends up causing like these weird problems where they like don't brake enough and they like slide into the corner instead of like braking beforehand and accelerating into the corner. They like, that's not a corner to do that on because it's a stressful corner. So I'm like shocked that they even try stuff like that, but they do. They 100% do. So the GT40 is destroying the Esperante now, but his tires are still really good, honestly. Like, I don't think the GT40 pits this whole lap, but the Esperante has like red tires. What's funny is he drives a better lap on certain corners when his tires are red. He actually like takes the corkscrew right when his tires suck. So I don't know what's up with that. The GT40 or the GT1 kind of does it too. He like does a safer lap when he has bad tires. I mean, it kind of makes sense to do that, but it is so funny how they correct it almost. I don't know what that's all about, but it is pretty funny. So Jaguar is now behind the GT40. 77B is struggling to get into the pit, but he'll do it. 77B is gonna pass me as I'm in the lap in the pit. This is one of those funny moments where the AI are stupid. Esperante just accelerates out of the pit and bumps into me and doesn't move anymore. It's pretty dumb when they do that, but they are guilty of doing stuff like that. They fixed that in GT4 where they basically just make it where once cars are trying to get into the pit, they become like an intangible object so that the animation can play out normally. That type of stuff is designed to kind of prevent what happens in GT3 where cars just bump into each other and get stuck behind each other, and then you're like, well, this is freaking hilarious. Like, what are we gonna do now? So at this point, I've already pitted in. 77B has not yet, but his tires are pretty worn out, and it starts to show. I start to gain on him pretty quickly. I got in a couple good 114 laps, which is, I think, the best I did with the ARTA NSX. It's pretty good. So, but yeah, it's a great time. This is a great game. Next thing we're gonna do in this video, if you made it this far, thank you again. We're gonna go to a max speed test between the two of them. The GT40 has a surprisingly high max speed in this game. Like, it's not very low. There's the Esperante showing that he has the worst handling of the two. GT40 goes by him making a lap. Is that lapping him? Yeah, I think he just lapped him. So we're at that point in the video where one of the two cars we're competing with here has been lapped by somebody else, but that's what happens when you pick the Esperante for a competition here of two cars. So I'm going to be eating a granola bar too while I finish talking about this. So yeah, the Esperante, I personally like the Esperante. I think it looks really cool. I like the like kind of leopard pattern and the Road Atlanta and the like Michelin. Like that's a very unique logo for a Gran Turismo game, is a Road Atlanta logo. So I'm proud of them for throwing that in there. GT40 looks great. The front of that car really has aged so well. Even the back is still pretty awesome. Very simple design, just the Golf livery. Like, I mean, that's pretty bare bones, and they won everything with this car. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah, I like the Esperante though. I've used the Esperante and won some of these races with it. It's very challenging. The Esperante is a hard car to win races with because its tires wear so fast. Just so fast. It's crazy. And the GT40 is quicker off the line too. Forgot to mention that earlier. But it's just a great game. Slowly catching up to the 77B, who's doing around 118. I think I get a couple 114s and 15s in. That's helping me catch up to him a lot. Esperante spun out. I missed it that time, but I've seen it a lot, so it's not a big deal. I have seen it a lot. GT1 is doing his weird mistake where he like almost thinks about making it and not braking and messing up himself on that corner. Then he decides to brake anyway, which almost solidifies the failure. It's fine. That makes for good content, you know what I'm saying? So now we have the Esperante spinning out yet again. You know the drill. GT40 is battling with the XJ220. XJ220 is way faster than the GT40, but just needs to pit a lot more, which is why there's even a battle there. It's just interesting. I like how they do it though in GT3, where there's basically certain cars are the ones that battle other cars in terms of performance, and I think that's a good way to do it. Given that they didn't have a lot of time to make a lot of different cars, they picked it right. Again, you know my theory on this. They could have totally put in more cars. They could have put in duplicates of cars. They could have put in the 99 version of all the cars that are in this game that are from the year 2000 that they just never brought back. They updated the models, but they could leave the old liveries in there. I don't know. Just ideas. But again, this game is 20 years old, so it's not like they could do anything at this point to fix it. I mean, they could remaster this game and add in new cars, but I kind of don't want them to do that. This game has a special place in everybody's heart exactly the way it is. So if they remastered it and then like put in like downloadable content and new cars, like pay $15 for extra cars, I'd be like furious. So that's part of the reason why I never got Modern Warfare Remastered, was because I was like, I'm not going to support them changing these games and going from a remaster to a reimagine. It's stupid. So I don't think Polyphony would do that though, because they seem really consumer friendly, underratedly so. So I don't think they would ever screw their audience up like that. If they did, they would just lose their whole audience and it would be a disaster. So I think they would keep it. They wouldn't do that. So anyway, we'll finish the rest of this video, and then at the end of it, we'll do a max speed test comparing the GT40 and the Esperante, see how their top speeds do. Their top speeds are, I think, decently similar. GT40 has a much better top speed than you would imagine, given that it has 681 horsepower fully tuned in this game. It's pretty fast. Again, it's a lightweight car, which is what makes it so good. The fact that it's so lightweight allows it to really be efficient with its power. I feel like that's the key. That's why the GT40 was so good, was because its engine wasn't very strong, but it's lightweight. And it was very aerodynamic in how low to the ground it is. It just had a lot of good things going for it, and that's what shows in its speed and how it's able to most efficiently use that power. Then the Esperante is like the complete opposite, just like 1,000 horsepower with a ton of lack of control and sliding all over the place, and it's just an enjoyable car to drive though. That's the thing about it, is it's out of control but enjoyable. And the GT40 is just enjoyable and controllable. So, you know, take your pick on those, right? Even has a GT1 logo. I just noticed that. It's the what is that? That's like a little class in the world or whatever. It's like a GT1 car. So pretty cool stuff. Definitely worth trying them both out. They're both great cars to drive. They both sound so good. The sound design in some of the cars in the Gran Turismo series have always been super top notch. Feels like other cars have been pretty crappy. So it's weird that they have like this weird inconsistency with how they do their sound design. It seems like with certain cars, they were just like, yeah, that's fine. It probably sounds like this. And you're like, wait, are you sure though about that? And then it's not how it sounds if you go watch a YouTube video on it. So I get intrigued by stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, it's probably a budgeting thing. But anyway, I'll let the rest of the video go out with a bang here. We have one more lap left. I'll watch the Panoz spin out. Maybe anyone else will spin out too. And then we'll do the max speed test. So thank y'all for watching and enjoy the rest of the video. Peace.